Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the next session of the A4Q Testing Summit. Here, the first day full running with a lot of great speeches. And now we have here Willem Keesman. I'm very happy because we work together on different spots in the testing community, and now I can host your session. I'm really happy about that. You're a principal consultant and with a lot of experience of software testing, but I think you can say something about yourself in a few seconds. But upfront, I want to tell the audience here, you can vote for the best speaker and best presentation with this QR code. So if you like this presentation from William, you click here, scan here, and then vote a lot. And also, please use the chat during the speech and ask questions so we can wrap them up at the end of the speech and get in a Q&A and get some interesting insights and ideas from William too. Your talk will be about the rapid rise of TMMi. So I think a very, very interesting topic for me too. So I'm very curious what you will say. And I would say, the stage is yours, William.
Thank you very much, Richie, and welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in also at this slot at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm between you and dinner, most likely, if you're from Europe. So I will try to talk not too slow, but not too fast either. If you have any questions, just leave them in the chat and I will answer them afterwards. My talk is called The Rapid Rise of TMMi. And TMMi has been growing across the world in the past few years. And I will, Richie already told this about me. Yeah, I'm currently a practice lead at Soprasteria, also working as a consultant. It's a bit of a double role. I'm basically a manager who still is testing. So I have a practice of 19 people in the Netherlands. They're all at various clients, and I'm still testing. So I'm at a client right now at the gas union. It's the Dutch national gas provider. So I'm doing a lot of pipeline testing, actually in both ways. So Azure DevOps and actual pipeline, which is fun. I've spent 13 years in testing. Before that, I worked in retail. So like many of us testers, I have a background in a different sector. I saw this as a common theme amongst testers, so that we all come from various backgrounds. In my team, I have a philosopher, an English teacher, a journalist who actually was in the Middle East, so a lot of people from various domains. Before I worked at the gas union, I worked in the fintech world as a tester. I worked at the government and also in Vattenfall. So lots of different sectors. And I like actually working at different clients and just instead of staying there, being billable, I have a definition of gone. So I would like to leave them with a better quality than I encountered it, basically. I'm also speaking at some conferences. I had the fortune to speak at Test Coast in Sweden last week. Speaking at ATD, Nordic Testing Days, Automation Star a couple of times. However, I'm mostly doing workshops and deep dives there, so not that often these sort of track talks, but I still love it. I love to share with the community. And that's why I'm also an event host. I'm hosting Best in Test, annually an event in the Netherlands, several meetups at my home office of Groningen. And TMMi, well, I'm a TMMi professional and a certified assessor, so I did a lot of TMMi work as well. Besides testing, I also have hobbies. I like certain things. I like roller coasters, theme parks, Dungeons and Dragons, board games, nature, walking outside. And I recently picked up running again. So I'm preparing for a 4-mile run in November. But enough about me, otherwise we run out of time. So what are we going to talk about today? This is the rough outline. Where are we now? What is our context? What are the consequences of this context for our profession? How does TMMi fit in? Why is the demand for TMMi increasing? And what are the benefits of TMMi? And what is the relevance of TMMi in the current age of DevOps and AI? Now, where are we now? And I hope this sounds familiar to a lot of you. We're often working remotely. The fact that I'm giving this presentation remotely is, well, I'm actually at a client. You cannot see this because of the background, but I'm currently at a client. Remote working, was not there before COVID, and it actually probably will never go away. We work often more in DevOps teams, autonomous teams that are building and running their own software, eat your own dog food. And we have AI generating the majority of code, and predictions are that almost all code will be generated by AI. I don't know whether or not these predictions will be true. However, I do notice the impact in many sectors. And I also see it in the people in my team, that there's more agentic working, more co-pilot integrations. And that's a bit of the context that we're currently in. What are the consequences of this? And I will go through them all one by one. First of all, there's a tool avalanche. At every client I've been so far, there's been countless of tools, and often tools that are doing the same, but are just from a different vendor. So many tools. Because teams are more siloed and working remote, there's more information hoarding. Things are not shared as often. Cross-team collaboration is a thing. No policy and strategy. Well, sometimes there is, but I will get back to that later. But often there's no policy or strategy when it comes to software testing, or a very limited one, or worse, one written by AI completely and no testers involved. What I've also seen as a common theme is the non-functional. I put that between brackets because it's not just the non-functional risks, but also the functional risks. I think they should be in the same category, to be honest. They're not properly addressed. So when I ask who's doing some risk storming, product risk assessment, or anything related to risk, I often get blank stares. And when we got to topics like performance, security, usability, interoperability, then often met with silence. Another common theme: environments are shared without protocol. So a lot of people deploy and build and test in the same environments, and actually are pulling down each other's software. And that's really a thing. We'll also get back to this. And testing as a craft is undervalued. I see there's often career paths for analysts, for developers, and for many other tech roles. But for testing, it's everyone can test. You're just a tester, right? So just go test. I strongly disagree with that, but I will leave this opinion for a bit later. And more code is generated automatically, and not always necessarily by people who have expertise. But that's also where the AI comes in. Well, these consequences. Tool avalanche. Yeah, I mean, I put an image there of all different tools. Maybe some of them, some of the brands sound familiar to you, or they look familiar to you. Well, there's many vendors, many licenses at the companies. Some companies use open source tooling. The Dutch government actually has the motto of open source unless, but it's quite often unless, because they find a reason to go for a commercial tool. And that by itself doesn't have to be a bad thing. But when there's many commercial tools and many licenses acquired and not used, then it's a lot of costs that are being made. And for what? And sometimes there's even tools. I did some tool research at a Department of Justice, one of the previous companies I've worked for. And I just saw that some tools were renewed annually and cost like 25,000 a year, and no one was actually using them. They're just being renewed, the licenses. So, and sometimes people don't even know what the tools are for. So there's also very specific tools and very specific knowledge in different teams. That's also an issue. So one team, to give you an example, at the Department of Justice, one team was using Selenium, then another used Selenite, which is a German fork, which was really good at that time. Then teams moved to Protractor, then Cypress came in, then teams start experimenting with Playwright. So there were 5 different tools to test basically the front-end applications, which were all being built in the same AngularJS front-end. And automation issues, that's also a thing in the tool avalanche. That some tools are really meant to automate, and others are just abstraction layers built on automation frameworks. But I can talk about this many hours, but I'm not going to do that. Information hoarding. I don't think information hoarding is done intentionally, but it was just easier to share when everyone was in the office. You just meet someone, you talk about what you're doing, the random encounters at the coffee machine, the meetings, people are more engaged because there's no buzz and background noises going on and mails and Teams messages coming in the meantime. So the silos also prevent sharing of information. And yeah, it's also, we build it, we run it. So why should we worry about the other teams? We're responsible for this part of the system landscape. And that leads to a lot of information hoarding. And no policy and strategy. Yeah, if you ask, how do we test here? Why do we test here? What do we test here? Often these questions remain unanswered. And sometimes there is a policy in the dark corner somewhere in Confluence or another SharePoint. And then you read it and you just see things like, huh, what is this HPUFT? But we don't even use this anymore. Or HPALM or other tools that are not used, or policies and old techniques that don't apply to the modern way of working. So, for example, an agile environment that still has a waterfall-based policy and strategy. And don't get me wrong on this one, because they don't have to be documents with 40 pages long that no one will read. But it's good at least to have a shared understanding. But later on, I will get back to that as well. The non-functional risks are not addressed. Well, it seems like the conversion of my PowerPoint to this didn't work, so you cannot read what's on there. But the non-functional risks are, for example, risks related to security, performance, usability, but also interoperability. If an application enters a landscape with many other applications, then quite often it's not tested if it coexists in this landscape with other applications. And also security incidents are found later on. Usability is not taken into account till the user acceptance test. And I think with a shift left approach we can move these things forward, but it's also good to write down some guidelines. And a quality framework such as TMMi might just help with that. Environments are shared without protocol. Yeah. Many teams deploying in the same environment actually sometimes pulling down each other's applications or stressing the environment. If one team is doing a performance test in a shared environment, then the other team suddenly has long waiting times. Or, for example, a usability test is taking place at the same time. If there's no agreement, there's no protocol, then it's just a recipe for disaster. And also the last bullet point, intensive resource usage, especially if you're working in a cloud-based environment with auto-scaling, the bill can go up very fast. And that's just a waste of money. That's also why FinOps was invented, just to prevent costs from spiraling out of control. And environments that are being shared without protocol, well, that's never a good thing. And I hope this one is relatable for many of you. Yeah, and this is like one of my one of the ones that's close to my heart. Testing as a craft is undervalued. There's often no career paths. I've been at, I think, 7 or 8 different companies now and clients. And there was almost never a career path for testers. It was just, now some people from the business, they became testers at some point. And it's just emphasized on learning the basics. Get your TMAP, get your ISTQB, just do a boot camp on Udemy on software testing, and you're set to go. And to me, that's just sad, because there's so much more to our craft, and it's really a beautiful profession if you map out all the possibilities. And this has been one of the things I did at every client to get this started, just to get people engaged again, see that there's perspective beyond just the basics. And the third part as well, no clearly defined roles. It's just tester. But at another company, it's test analyst. Then it's QA engineer. Then it's QE engineer. Then it's SDET. It's so many different roles, but it's not clearly defined what their scopes are. And I think this could also be done very well. And the last one, more test code generated automatically. Well, by generating test code automatically, and even worse, self-healing tests, test techniques are not used by design. You have to really prompt specifically to generate really good tests. Otherwise, you just get the basic tests, which are like unit level tests. They check something, but they don't really test. Also, the second, the cognitive overload in the output checking. This is really a problem. I mean, if you're becoming an orchestrator and you have to check all these agents, like what are they producing? Is this correct? I mean, can you keep up by doing that all day? Because it's really deep thinking work. You have to really focus to find the bugs, the real problems. But if you just have to check so much output, I think your thinking process will also be hindered by that. And it's also because every team is able to generate code so quickly, just at with a couple of prompts, they have a whole automation library. Then you're reinventing wheels. Why not use shared libraries? Why not use make a platform team that just provides all these libraries for all the other teams? Why would you reinvent multiple wheels at the same places? So where does TMMi come in? Well, we're almost halfway through, so it's about time that TMMi should come in. To my opinion, TMMi, which is a model for test maturity model integration, covers mostly things in level 2 and 3. Level 1 initial, every company is level 1 initial. And level 1 initial just means that testing is done ad hoc. There's no policy. There are some champions trying to get things done, but there's nothing else. So it's a very chaotic environment. And that's what happens at most companies. Level 2 and 3 actually try to bring structure into the organization. And I will get to the specific process areas later on. But just implementing level 2 already ensures that you're a very mature company in the way you have arranged things. Level 3 actually adds the organization and the training program on top of that, which I think should be there just because it's a craft. It's not just a role that anyone can take. And by the risk of sounding redundant, it also really works well in an agile context. There's also some papers written about that. I gladly share them with you if you reach out to me. So you don't need to make tons of documents. You don't need to write instructions and just take away the autonomy of teams. But it can work really well together. So how does TMMi address challenges? Well, for example, lack of policy and strategy as described. That's actually process area in level 2, the policy and strategy. But it's not just writing down a policy. In order to pass a formal TMMi assessment, the policy has to be there, it has to be supported by management, and it has to be known by the teams. So just writing a policy, a PDF, dropping it somewhere on Confluence, that's not going to work. And the tool evidence will also be addressed by that. Actually, at a previous client, we just made a whole tool approach for this type of test. We use this tool, and this tool is also allowed, but this one is not supported. So at least if there's guidelines on that part, then there's no tool evidence anymore. Information hoarding. Well, that's actually one that's addressed by process area level 3. Test organization. If you have a test organization, you have a community, you have a knowledge sharing platform, you have, for example, bi-weekly meetups where people can share the test problems they encounter and also the solutions which they found. You can also get the good practices out of the teams and just put them somewhere where they are shared. Non-functional risks are not addressed. Well, process area level 2 test planning is actually the one that addresses the product risk assessment. So at level 2, you already start taking risk seriously. And at level 3, you actually embed non-functional testing, such as security and performance, in your everyday testing activities. And well, also the peer review process, which is part of the TMMi model, that also addresses risks because lots of risks can be avoided by proper reviewing. And testing as a craft undervalued. Well, that one is actually tackled by test training program in level 3 at TMMi area. Then you actually have a career path for testers, which I think is immensely valuable. Okay, and then also level 2, by the way, covers test environments. It's not on here, but level 2 has a specific process area for test environments. in which actually, I'm sorry, the light is going out. I'm just gonna, yeah, brightness. Okay, level 2 also has test environments in which you actually make agreements for test environments, for sharing test environments, what should be the setup and the configuration of the test environment. So this is also covered. So why is the demand for TMMi increasing? Well, there's more compliance and regulatory standards, also with, for example, the AI Act, but also in specific sectors. There's overall an increase in defects found. I last week actually saw a report from virals.ai that even though AI code is produced much faster, it also increases defects. So there's a lot of defects found in AI code. Cross-team collaboration and communication stagnates, and actually some people run into these problems and they look for a solution. I was one of them a couple of years ago, and that's how I encountered TMMi. Testers looking for room to grow as a professional, as a human being. I mean, testers just want to better themselves, and they often don't know. So for my own team, actually, learning and development is like one of the most important things, and it's something which I would never cut cost on. Many hats, but not many roles. I mean, I recently saw actually job advert for a senior test automation specialist, but you had to know Kubernetes, Azure, 5 years of Java programming, OCP certificate, Linux, all these sort of things. And I think you're not looking for a tester, you're looking for an entire team here. So they expect testers have many hats, but there's not often many roles. It's just a tester or an automation engineer. And that's also a reason why a lot of companies look for structure and make a career path. The rise in the Netherlands, and fortunately I was a part of this, and well, you see it here, the Centraal Justitieel Incassobureau. Don't try to pronounce it if you're not Dutch. It's a very Dutchy word and sounding. It's the Department of Justice, and it's actually the first organization that got TMMi level 2 certified as a government organization in the Netherlands, which happened actually earlier this year. This is my current client. I'm also addressing TMMi here at GasUnie. The Dutch tax office is experimenting with it. The Dutch pension funds are experimenting with it. So there's lots of trajectories running at multiple organizations, because when they see what it's really about, the TMMi model and how it can be implemented, a lot of people get enthusiastic, and mostly the testers and hopefully also some managers, but I'll get back to that later. So I'm really glad that the many organizations are exploring TMMi. Well, the rise of TMMi can also be seen in these graphs. Netherlands actually made it to the top 10 of TMMi professionals exams in 2025, mainly because it's growing a lot in the Netherlands. But also this one below, that's one back. Those are the formal assessments taking place, and that also really went up. So there's many formal assessments taking place, and it should not even be about getting the formal assessment done, but just the fact that you're busy with it already is a great thing. And there's also many assessors and test process improvers from the Netherlands. So here in the Netherlands, TMMi is really growing, and I think that's a good thing. So what are the benefits of TMMi? Why would you start with TMMi? Well, enhance product quality. This is by actually organizations implementing TMMi. So that's quantified benefits from the organizations that work with it. Can be also found on the TMMi website, the whole report. So product quality improves, efficiency of testing improves. Well, I mean, if there's clear agreements on why we test, what tools we use, how we test, then there's also more effective testing and no wheels being reinvented. People are more happy, so the morale goes up. Testers are more loyal to the company. I mean, it makes sense, right? If there's a career path for you, then there's more reason to stay. But if there's just a dead end and you just basically get your foundation or your TMAP and then, well, just a test for the next 10 years and no more courses, nothing. Well, I would not stay there long. Business alignment is also a thing. So the customers are more happy with projects. Stakeholders from the business are also more involved, and often it leads to a faster go live time if you work TMMi, because you're a very mature organization. So problems will be spotted early on and not later on in the development cycle. And this one also helps, checking some ISO boxes. Well, TMMi by itself is ISO 9001, a quality management system. By addressing the non-functionals, you address ISO 25020, the 2023 version. So those are the software quality characteristics, all the illities, so to speak of. Also security, ISO 27001. And the newest one is related to AI system. That's 23053, and that's software quality characteristics for AI systems, which I think should definitely be a part of your strategy and policy, because why wait till it's there? Even if you're at a company that's not doing anything with AI yet, it's better to be prepared. I'm training my team to be prepared, and at every company I'm currently working as a consultant, I just try to at least get it on the agenda. Just have a plan in case it comes, how you want to use it, how you want to use generative AI, what you want to do with agentic AI. Maybe it's not there yet, but at least you've thought about it when it's there. And that brings us to the relevance of TMMi in AI and DevOps. Well, DevOps by itself, DevOps working, implies a certain maturity. I mean, why would you give a team full autonomy to build and run their product and automate everything if they're immature? So working DevOps, I think, already implies that a team is mature. Actually, lots of discussions with Erik van Veenendaal about this. I think DevOps working is more related to TMMi level 4 and 5 even, because you're monitoring everything, collecting all metrics, and you're continuously improving, and that's the higher levels of TMMi. That AI needs guardrails. So having some guardrails in place, like I just said in the previous slide, just address it in your policy, your strategy, your way of working, and also say what you're using it for, how your data is protected, what tests it's going to help you, and what tests maybe can still better be done just by critical thinking. As much as you can say, like, testing can be done manually, but all testing is manually, I think, because there's a person giving thoughts about it. Non-functionals matter more, because in an age where code is produced and shipped faster, the chances of security risk or something going wrong with the performance are higher. So I think should be more emphasis on non-functional testing. And I also think that, well, we saw it with Claude. I think it deleted the backup of the database at some client, and then it afterwards apologized. But I mean, if you use such tools and give them autonomy like OpenClaw, Claude Code, and give them too much freedom, and there's no one critically thinking or looking at it anymore, such things can happen. And this was just a commercial company or a bank, I think it was. But if it happens in the safety critical industry, such as where I am in, or if it happens at a medical devices company, you really are in trouble, or a hospital. So you want to have guardrails for AI. And security should be tighter. Well, there's so many stories already of tokens being exposed, authorization headers being pushed to production, unencrypted data being pushed. So security should just be tighter, and it's addressed in TMMi level 3, but also in advanced reviews and in the continuous improvement, because in level 5 you're working actually towards preventing of defects and root cause analysis. If you TMMi level 5 organization, then basically if a bug somehow escapes and comes to production, you're like going to analyze how could this have happened and how could we prevent this in the future. And that really requires a high degree of maturity. So I get it that you're all excited now about TMMi, but how to get it started? Well, yeah, that's the first one. That's always a tricky one. Ensure senior management are involved, and that's not just it's not an easy one, but you have to have them on the table. And that's partly why we also managed at the Department of Justice, because from the very start, we involved senior management. We involved the highest IT manager from the operations team. So he was actually the IT manager of 45 DevOps teams. We got the chief information security officer on board, the compliance officers, privacy officers. So everyone was like involved and also updated throughout the whole trajectory. And that's why it eventually got to level 2. Involve the testers when defining processes. We did this both qualitative and quantitative. So we had quantitative questionnaires that we sent to all testers. There were 81 testers at that time. I think I still know the majority of them by name. And we just sent them a questionnaire. We got about an 85% response rate. So that was really high. People really wanted to change. And then we did in-depth interviews also, 30 minutes for each tester. So that took us quite a lot of time. But then we got lots of valuable feedback. And we also saw like the common ground there. So that really helped. Yeah, ensure you interpret the model. That's just basically taking a TMMi professional course, getting the exam, reading the book, know what it's all about. And everyone in my team took this exam. Also in the Department of Justice, we had 3 exam classes, and that really helps. Because the likelihood of adoption also increases. If people know what it's about, they believe in it, then they're also more likely to work with it and get enthusiastic. Yeah, long-term and short-term goals. That's mainly, I think, also coupled to the first one. If you want long-term goals, that's really good as well for the testers, like perspective. But managers always want to see the short-term gains, so they want to see like, okay, I already see that after 3 months that there's the testers' happiness or went up, or the amount of bugs in a pilot team went down, or there's a policy suddenly. They want to just see all the short-term gains, goals as well, and the results of those. So I would definitely keep them updated. And yeah, change takes time, especially at a government organization. So be realistic with your expectations. Don't expect to transform into a TMMi level 2 or 3 organization overnight or just in a couple of sprints. Usually a rough guideline would be like 9 months to go from 1 to the second level, and then about 6 months more from the second to the third level. But that's usually, and that's it really depends on the size and complexity of the organization. Yeah, focus on building better test professionals in parallel. Kind of was also addressed in interpreting the model, but besides just taking the TMMi professional course, just already start like training the employees, training all the testers, provide many courses for them, and then already their enthusiasm levels will go up. And provide templates and share best practices, also against information hoarding. And people just like it. If they're doing something great and they're actually able to share that with many other people, it just makes them happy. So by all means do that. So slide 22, we're almost there. A summary. Well, we went from the context that we're currently operating in to the consequences, to a solution and how to implement it. We briefly discussed the rise of TMMi, its benefits, its relevance in the current time, and a guideline on getting started. So this was a summary of what we spoke about in the last half hour. If there's any questions, I gladly answer them now or afterwards. And feel free to always reach out to me. I'm always looking forward to chat and meet new people. You can contact me via email. My LinkedIn profile is also in there. Feel free to send the connection requests. And if you want to read more case studies about TMMi, there's a site there as well, the tmmi.org/case studies. But besides the ones that are on the site, I can give you many more links. So if you're interested in TMMi, want to do something with it, then I'm happy to help. Thank you for listening. I hope you had a good time, and looking forward to answering your questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Willem. I'm very interested in TMMi now, and I want to learn more about it.
At least one.
At least, well, yeah. But before we come to the questions, maybe you can show the QR code for the best speaker and best presentation award. So maybe when you think William should get it, now scan the code and vote for him. And now to the questions. What are your personal experiences with TMMi?
Yeah, I've actually did a couple of quick scans. I started the trajectory at the Department of Justice, and my personal experience has been very positive. I see that it's actually really a path when they see suddenly things are being shared instead of hoarded, and mostly when they also see that management believes in it. And I got in touch with TMMi due to a strategic consult call I had with Gartner about test maturity, and they actually mentioned TMMi. I also did not know about TMMi, I think 5 years ago. I didn't know it existed even. But it's it really the rest is history. So it's where it really helped to shape testing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Let's look at the next one. Where can AI directly support TMMi practices today?
I think it can support as a brainstorm partner, not as a replacement. So if you're, for example, writing a test strategy, you can just spar with AI, and you can just ask AI to say, okay, you're a senior manager at this company. This is the context. What would you want to see addressed in such a strategy? And then you're like playing back and forth, and then you're doing a few shot prompting, just going back and forth and improving it. And then, tell the AI to act as a persona that you want to convince. And of course, then the real fun thing is if you're going to test it in real life. So to see how the manager itself responds to this strategy. But it's nice to prepare that with AI as a brainstorm partner.
Yeah. Good advice. Thank you. And I think we have also another question here. What advice would you give organizations starting their TMMi journey today?
Well, I think the most important one is just ask why do you want to do it, and is there like a common ground and need for it? Like, is the organization ready for this change? And just ask why. Is it really needed, and is there a sense of urgency? And also try to just feel if management is willing to actually change this and on board, because that's there has to be something in there for them, and they also have to have a certain problem that you're offering a solution for. So find out what the problem is, why you want this, and then double check this with management if they also see this. And then once they're on board, you're practically good to go.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you so much. Yeah, William, great that you were here in the A4Q Testing Summit in this year's edition now. It was a great talk, and hope you all can enjoy the rest of the conference today and also tomorrow, the second day. And William, thank you so much, and have a good day too.
Yes, thank you, Richie, and thanks everyone for listening, and thank you for having me. And enjoy the conference.
Yeah.
Cheers.